My name is Michael Spencer with Reynolds Farm Equipment. I'm our certified dealer instructor here. Today we'd like to spend a little bit of time to really define what those checkpoints are on your sprayer before we get in the heart of the spraying season. So we're going to go through what I would call more of a traditional walk around or inspection that you would take the time to manage and put your hands on all these components on the sprayer really before you take it to the field. So I'll start here with the cooling package. Everything I speak of on this cooling package here also really refers back to the 8R 9-liter chassis as well. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But more specifically on the sprayers, they're running in some tough environments, especially like in this case with the lifted sprayer. If you're going to do any amount of full season spraying or tassel cord spraying, you will have impact into these coolers, and it is vital that we remove the cooling package and hinge those packages back and push hot air, or push hot water and then air through the back side of those radiators just to make sure that our cooling package is functioning to its maximum ability. Okay, here we're on the right hand side of the machine, and specifically I would like to take a point to the engine controller here. These harnesses do have potential of getting some impact on them as well. So it's a good idea to put your hands on those, make sure those connectors are seated correctly and tightly. It is an Allen head that's supposed to secure those to the motor and make sure this area is clean and free of any debris. Also, when we're here, obviously we have our fuel filter and our engine oil filter. Just a good time to take your eyes on that, make sure there's no leaks or any issues there. And then on the common rail, the fueling side of the system too, just another good opportunity to make sure that we don't have any rub lines, leaking lines, or anything of the sort. Now we're on the left-hand side of the machine, specifically looking at the filtration system for the cab. Kind of specific to the R-Series machine on where that inlet is for the cab filtration. Really good idea to make sure that these breathers are clean and free of any debris and also are able to open and close. This is what impacts the ability for the cab to seal itself off to give you that maximum cab filtration. Any issues here will present themselves as maybe lack of cooling or those types of things in the cab too, so that's another good time that you would take a look at this. Continuing our way around on the left-hand side of the machine, another pinch point will be the wiring and for the controllers here as well, and the fuse panel for the exact apply system, if you have that, will be up there. Just again, make sure that that area is clean, check the fuses, put your right hands on those, make sure all the connections are tight, as well as starting to look at your hydraulic lines going down your arms to the final drives on the legs. This is a good place to stop and take a moment just to make sure everything's clear, free of debris, no leaks. And then under here as well, we have our inspection plate looking up underneath the machine. You'll have a universal joint going back, driving your pumps and those things. Put a good eye on those universals. This is the time you want to be repairing those components, not later. And just a quick reminder to you as well, this is really easy to forget to do, but go ahead and fill this water tank up for your hand washing station here as well. Easy thing to forget, so I thought we'd call it out for you. Now getting underneath the sprayer here and looking at our legs, there's quite a bit going on here, so spend just a little bit of time, put your eyes and hands on the different components. So starting from the top down, we have our hoses coming down, so you've got a series of hydraulic hoses and air line coming down to your bags. Just make sure everything's free to move, clear of any debris, and snug in these holders here. Also take a look at where the loom is going around the hoses and in to make sure there isn't any wire showing. I wouldn't waste any time and just replace those hoses going from the motor up to the top of the leg. Looking at our arms, make sure there's no pitting or scarring on the arms and that they're free and clear to move, as well as the seals around the legs are free. Then in this particular case, they are a little bit dirty, so I would recommend like an electrical contact cleaner, something that is going to be safe to use on the rubber compounds that are in these seals, just to clean this up a little bit. Definitely spend time on the airbags. It's getting more in common, just like this case here, we got a lifted sprayer. This is going to be spraying tasseled corn. These bags will take some damage, so make sure there's no air leaks, make sure we're not getting too thin on the airbags. and just verifying that it's ready to go. So now coming on down, we'll have the electrical connector. If you have the row sense feelers, if you're not using them early in the season, just make sure they're tucked back, and there should be a desk plug for the row sensor feelers harness here. And make sure this bracket is in good shape. If this is bent at all, that's okay. You'll just have to make sure you redo the calibration or make sure that that feeler is in the correct orientation. Also, just calling out the lift kit on this. It's a Simon lift kit, so we've got its own independent air lines coming down here and push fitting, so make sure that those hoses are all the way seated down into the connectors, or those shark bite style connectors. It's a good idea at this point to fire the machine up, let air build all the way up, turn the machine back off, and put your ear here and see if there's any light leaks or anything that'll cause you trouble. Again, looking at the fittings coming into the final drive is a really good idea. We can tend to have wear show up in this bend here, where even in taller beams, those beam plants will start to be a little bit abrasive on these hydraulic lines. Then take a really good look at your disc brakes, just like you would on your pickup or your car. Just make sure it's intact, clean, free, and ready to go. So now moving back more right underneath the solution system and the hydraulic components thereof. Starting up at the main block, you want to look in this area. It's really easy to have a blown O-ring or a little bit of oil seepage here. Clean this area really well, and then if you notice any oil leaking whatsoever, go ahead and pull those fittings off, replace those O-rings as necessary, just to increase some liability in the field, and then start following those hydraulic lines back. The big call outs here would be coming back to the pump itself, and then heading on back to the main boom supply as well. So just a good time to put your eyes and hands on all these different hydraulic lines through the belly of the machine. Now focusing on the steering linkage here. Please spend time when we look at the legs and the steering on this front end of this machine. We have our hydraulic cylinder and the pins holding that. Make sure those have been well greased and zero slop within this king pin here, this king nut. Spend time there. Also with the potentiometer that's in this area here, make sure that that linkage and all of those components are intact and not bent by any stretch of the imagination. And following down, just really consult the service manual or equipment mobile to walk through where all the grease certs are and what the expectation is. It's also a really good idea to go up in the cab and make sure that those voltages under the diagnostic page for the steering arms go through their full swing of motion, and that there's no binding or any odd sensation in the steering wheel at all. Even on loose soil like this or stone, that should be a really smooth feeling. And if it's not at all, I promise you that there's probably some loose linkage or something going on within this area. So looking at the back of the sprayer, we have several different interconnects back here, really dense population of interconnects, to be honest with you. So it's worth your while to put your hands on all of these CAN connections here going to your spray rate controller. Here at the lot, we found a lot of birds love this area, so it's a good time to clean that debris out and make sure there's no damage found with around or in that rate controller. As well as these connections headed back to the back of the boom. This area gets a lot of movement, so just checking this loom and making sure that it's fully intact and there's no bare wires. So good potential for some pinch points and things like that going through the season, so just a great time to look at that. And then as well, when you're back here, you've got two more legs to pay mind to. The other big call out would be your potentiometer for your boom parallel arm height. So this is what tells the monitor where this boom is or how high it is. And again, that thing is moving constantly when you're going through the field. So making sure that that linkage is not bound up in any way, and that electrical connection doesn't have dirt or any debris built up around it as well. So now looking at our main center section where we connect to both the left and right inner boom sections, there's a lot going on here. So some of the key things, making sure that this bushing is not wallered out by any imagination and just that this area is clean. Obviously with the tire right here, and you can see it on this machine too, we get a lot of debris and trash built up here, and we also have a lot of connection points. So keeping this hinge point and this hinge point clean, as well as making sure that this potentiometer and the wiring harness is clean and not pinched. I actually noticed on this machine here that we have a tight cutback, so I would probably disconnect this connector and reroute that just to try to build in some more security there, as well as cleaning this off. I think that this area could be cleaned daily, honestly. And then moving up, we've got our solution hoses and our hydraulic hoses that head out towards the boom. Obviously this is a point that has about a lot of vertical as well as horizontal movement, so please make sure that this canvas is on both the solution and the hydraulic hose and that it's intact. And then we'll worry about the boom as we move forward. The other key thing that we want to call out is the IMU on these BoomTrack Pro systems. It's right in the center of the boom here. That inertia measurement unit, it's a newer technology for these booms, but making sure that it is very secure and mounted on that plate that it's on, as well as that new connection that is easily forgotten. So now looking at the BoomTrack on this particular sprayer, we have 5 of the height sensors that are across the boom. So this is the example of the one that's in the center. So on the Deeres, just making sure that this area is clean, that the connector is clear and a good connection. It's a really good idea on these to actually physically disconnect that and make sure the pins aren't pushed back. And I would go ahead and add dielectric grease in those connectors. We're working on really small voltage increments here, so let's give that the best chance it can. Also with BoomTrack, you have the accumulator here. This needs to be charged with nitrogen, and I would recommend checking that periodically or even bringing it into the dealership, and we can check it for you as you wait. There's specific specs to that depending on what vintage of BoomTrack you have. So take a look at that, understand that in the ops manual, or honestly simply just bring that to one of our locations and we can do it on the spot real quick for you. Now moving our way outside on the boom, we really have 2 main hinge points that we need to be concerned with. So here we're in our inner boom to our outer boom section, and then you'll have your outer boom to your wing tip section. So specifically looking here on our inner boom to outer boom, we have these series of bushings here. So you really want to play close mind here. What I'm looking for is this bushing to be frayed out or showing signs of wear. This one's really intact and in good shape, but what you'll notice is part of that nylon will be sticking out of this area or even pushed all the way out. And if you grab this at all, it will show clear signs of movement within that spot. There's specific tools that we need in order to be able to manage that. So now looking at our Breakaway here, again, we've got some more bushings that we need to put our eye on and make sure that they're intact and in good shape. But the big call out here is the tension on this spring. So what the proper way to understand where we're set is the book says we'll grab like a fish scale or some sort of measuring device here. You would hook to the end of this boom and pull this boom back. The spec is 60 pounds. So 60 pounds should be where this Breakaway starts to move. If we're any different than that, it's simply loosening this jam nut and then tightening or loosening this main nut here, adjust it to the point where you feel fit, and then test for that 60 pounds again. And then make sure that we tighten this jam nut back down to about 30 foot-pounds. So now just a quick overview of the solution system on this sprayer. Looking at the tank and making sure that there's no debris or any buildup of residue in there, or if we haven't de-winterized it yet, I would highly recommend putting 200-300 gallons worth of fresh water just in the solution tank and push that all the way throughout the boom by running a nozzle flow check. By doing that though as well, you'll be able to walk back and walk down through the boom to make sure we don't have any leaks. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone there. But the main things I like to call out are our main strainers. So you'll have 2 on the side of the machine by your fill ports, and then these 3 strainers here. Let's take those off and inspect and look at those mesh strainers. clean those out really well. I recommend cleaning them out 5 times before deciding to go ahead and just replace those strainers. And then looking at your boom, solution boom all the way down through the sprayer. So any point where we have a connection, just putting your eyes on that. Make sure that the hose clamps, that they're tight, secure, and not damaged, as well as any hard connection points on the boom. Make sure you don't see that seal pushing out or any leakage of any sort there, just to help protect from like those pressure spikes that we may see going through the field. Lastly, if you do have an exact applied nozzle body, I highly recommend unconnecting this connector, inspecting those pins and terminals, mainly in the nozzle body. Those pins will over time corrode or even frankly just disappear. So make sure that we're intact there, and once we take that off, put a little bit of dielectric grease back in those points, and you'll have really good luck just by taking that little bit of time. So one thing I like to call out on these newer generation cabs is that they did move the cab air filter to this lower portion of the cab. So we have had several phone calls where customers are complaining about poor AC performance, and what we've found is lunch boxes or even jackets or something covering this air filter because we're used to it being up in the cab. So just a really good time to, one, make sure the air filter is clean, but to make sure that the operators know that this area needs to be free of any debris, just so we get good airflow. We'll take a quick sidebar here to speak to the distinct differences between the Hagie machine versus the Deere R Series machines. Looking at the NORAC system on the Hagie, there is some differences that we need to understand with it. First and foremost is software. Frankly, we need to make sure that the software that's on the NORAC matches the bundle listing for the display package. So we really need to consult or understand the vintage of the machine you have and what software you have on your display to then be able to understand what software needs to be within the NORAC controller. And then the next thing with the NORAC system is making sure that the linkage and the potentiometers are all intact throughout the boom, just like what we talked about on the R Series. The key difference with the NORAC system and the sensor is it has this foam piece that helps protect that radar system within that. So I highly recommend just pulling all these foam pieces out and just giving them a good cleaning and wash and let them dry really well and just install them back, and that will really help the performance of the NORAC system. Looking at the legs on the Hagie, just like the R Series, we need to make sure that our gaps and our spacings and that these pads in the leg are intact or within spec. The operator's manual will call that specification out, so I encourage you to go take a look at that. But more so on the Hagies, these legs really take a beating going through the field as they're spraying tasseled corn or hitting tile lines or those types of things. So I encourage taking a look and making sure we're not getting any stress fractures or any damage to the leg component of themselves, just because of the nature that they're running in. One nuance with the Hagie is the rear boom. It's really easy to forget because typically you guys are parking these after spraying fungicide late season and you're using your rear boom. We do get called quite a bit after posting corn or posting soybeans that the front sections aren't working on my sprayer, or I'm not spraying out of the front sections. It's really easy to forget that we need to turn off the rear boom section and turn that front boom section back on. We really hope that us taking the time to shoot this video helps you guys be able to put your hands on your sprayer, understand those points that we're looking at as we inspect sprayers. But really, at the end of the day, Reynolds is here to support you. So if you have any questions when it comes to this, or if any of this is overwhelming, please call your salesman, please call your location service managers, and we would be more than happy to walk you through some of these things over the phone. But more so, we do offer an inspection program. We've been doing it for a long time on combines, but we're really making a push and wanting to provide that great service throughout your portfolio of equipment on the farm. So sprayers is that really next logical step. For $500, you can have a trained professional service technician come to your site and give you a really detailed list of things that need to be done so that sprayer can get through that growing season, and then we'll consult with you. We're not looking to do all the work. Now obviously we would love to, but the reality of it is we want you to be able to trust that that machine's going to go to the field and be fully reliable. So a lot of these things that we discussed today you can absolutely do yourself, but if you want us to do part of that or all of that list, that's what Reynolds is here for.